This is episode 538, Breakout EDU in Adult Professional Development and College Education.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Breakout EDU, yes, it can be used at the college and adult level. Today we have Lucy Manley, who's Associate Dean of Academic Affairs at Garrett College and also teaches first-year writing. And Lucy is someone that my awesome research assistant, Dr. Lisa Durf, has found and saw you present. So Lucy, could you kind of summarize for us, for those who don't know, what is Breakout EDU and how are we using it in adult and college education?
Breakout EDU is kind of the opposite of what you would think when you think of the popular escape room. So where you're locked into a room and you have to break out of the room. The Breakout EDU company, and I don't work for them, I just really find a lot of value in their product, but they have created these kind of problem-solving boxes, and the point is to break into the box. It's really great in building team building and critical thinking skills. And so we use those at Garrett College as well.
Cool. So give us some examples of how you've used these to teach.
Actually, I've used them for faculty development, which has been a lot of fun. And that is how I've introduced them to our faculty, and so that they can think about ways to adopt it for their own curriculum. What I've seen the faculty do is in the education classrooms, they've had their students create them for elementary, which seems to be a very popular place to be using the Breakout EDU. So the pre-service teachers are using them they're creating their own. In the content areas, however, we've seen them in language classrooms. It lends themselves very well in foreign language classrooms. So one of the most exciting ways I've seen it used is in the computer science classroom, in which the professors were creating their own games that students had to use coding skills to break into the box. I've seen our history professor, she likes to use it for midterm and final exam reviews, so creating their own games. I think our professors really like to create their own games, and so in my role, I assist them in doing that. The last thing that I want to mention that we use this for very frequently is our first year experience class. We have combined the Breakout along with our kind of scavenger hunt type of games in which students are learning about campus resources. So they're using those skills just kind of as a culmination activity, just to remind them that here's what you need to be successful as a college student, and here are the resources available to you on our particular campus.
Okay, so for those who are struggling to get this, could you kind of, we don't want you to give away any answers, but could you kind of talk us through, like, for example, what you do with your beginning students? Because I think that's a novel idea when people are nervous and they're getting acclimated with a new school or a new place. You want them to build relationships and learn about, the functional things. And I think it's a really unique tool, especially for that. So just give us, they get their box and what? And how many kids?
So we're a small school. We have very small class sizes, which I love about our institution. If we have a class of, say, maybe 20 or 25, we like to keep the groups about 4 to 6. That's kind of the ideal group, I think, for adults. What I've noticed is that students will tend to, if the groups are too large, then some students will just tend to kind of be off to the side and not engage. If the group is smaller, they kind of don't have a choice to engage in that. But essentially what they're doing is box they're trying to break into has a variety of different kind of locks, and the students have to solve puzzles to get into those locks. So one lock, for example, may have a word on as the answer. So they have to kind of figure out what that word is. And there may be 5 or 6 clues that would lead them to figure out what exactly that word is. Another example would be numbers. So again, there would be 3 or 4 different clues, and then the students would put those clues together to figure out what the numbers are to break into that lock. So for example, if we're talking about a first year experience course, we may want to look at the bursar as a really important place on campus to go pay your bill. So we may have a number of different clues that would lead them to the business office and tuition and financial aid. And the answer would come up, they would come up with, it would be the bursar. And that would be the clue that they would use to break into that lock. Well, probably not their favorite place on campus to be.
But they need to know where it is. So Lucy, how many boxes does your college have? And are you the one who resets all the locks for everybody?
Yes, I do. I keep them all in my office at a big cabinet, and we have 4 for our campus. None of our class sizes are more than 25 to 30. And so we can manage well with 4 boxes.
I guess they're pretty popular, huh?
They are. I introduced them onto our campus last year. They've been used numerous times, and the faculty really seem to like them. The students really seem to like them. We're kind of at the point where some students have seen them more than once. And so when I or a professor walk into their classroom lugging all of these boxes, they get pretty excited about it.
Cool. Okay, so let me just ask you this from a functional perspective. How hard are these locks to reset?
They're fairly easy. I will say when you first get them, they can be a little tough just because they haven't been used quite a bit. And when we first started using them, I would see that the student had a correct answer, and I would just tell them, just tug it harder, and it would come out. So the locks seem to be pretty easy. I haven't had any issues where I've had to call the company, but I know a colleague of mine at another institution had an issue with a lock, and it was replaced very quickly by them.
You have traveled and you have spoken on Breakout EDU at conferences. What is your 1-minute elevator pitch for why these should be used for education?
I think the biggest component for me is the critical thinking that we struggle with quantifying when we're talking about our assessment. And so we want to teach critical thinking. And I think as teachers, we know that we do it, but sometimes we don't have that tangible component that says, hey, we are teaching critical thinking. Here's how we're doing it. And here's how we are assessing it.
So all of your professors like to write them themselves.
They're very pressed for time, as many teachers are. But what they do is they'll schedule a meeting with me, and I'll have kind of a consultation with them, and we'll talk through what they want to get out of the class session, essentially. And I will help them to design that. So I'll work with them to design it. And then I'll get all as far as logistics is concerned, I'll get all of the sets set up, and I'll actually come into, if I'm able to, I'll come into the classroom with them. Some professors prefer to just tell me what they want, and I just kind of create it, or I find one of the pre-made games that are on the Breakout EDU website, which I'm assuming you'll link to in this, but there are a lot of pre-made games, especially for adults. And so sometimes I'll just take one of those games and adapt it a little bit. It's difficult for me to do it within a content area. My content area is in the humanities. So if it's outside of my content area, then I'll work with the professor to organize that. But I give them as much support as I can, just because I know they're pressed for time, and we all know it's a really great experience for our students.
It is. We have a teacher at my school that teaches 5th grade and does Breakout EDU, and she kind of made her own little boxes and things. And the kids love it. It's just such a powerful way for learning, and you can do it with Google Forms. I mean, there's just so many ways that you can take this, and it's a game.
Yes.
And it's not going to give them an answer that's not right. I'm not going to say it's not forgiving, but it just, there's a right answer, and kids actually, like that. So thanks, Lucy. This is great.
Absolutely. And I will say my favorite part that I've seen too is our students now create their own games. So the professors allow the students to have that space to create their own games. And so then they can try it out on each other. And we've had some professors that will have their students create games and then invite the campus community in to practice on theirs. So I think that it's a really great learning experience for us all.
That's great. Thank you. Today, your podcast PD challenge is to create a Breakout EDU experience with your students. I have written a post to give you 5 ideas for bringing Breakout EDU to your classroom, along with free links to Breakout EDU digital games and interviews with experts on this topic. So create that Breakout EDU challenge for your students. And the other part of the challenge is to share what you did with at least one colleague. Go to coolcatteacher.com/breakout for 5 ideas to bring Breakout EDU to your classroom. And as always, tweet or message me on social media to let me know what you did.